Hello, 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 everybody. I know that it is 2 a.m. in the morning, but I decided to give you guys a pop up on a conversation that we pretty much don't talk about, and I want to be dealing with creative. So, we talked about the impact, we talked about the narcissist, but I want to deal with creatives because what a creative is a prophetic person, just like we talked about an impact is a prophetic person. And so typically, as we discussed at one other time, when you're dealing with um, a a person that identifies as an empath, they're talking about their wiring. And so in many cases, that person is just wired to be sensitive. And that's something that I had to come to learn about myself is that God wired me a certain way. I'm wired to be sensitive, but I'm not emotional, if that makes sense. Hello, hello. Esther Prep is in the house. God bless y'all. God bless y'all. But I'm wired to be sensitive, but I'm not emotional. And there's a difference between the two. I know a lot of times we correlate the terms sensitivity and emotionalism or being super emotional, but I'm not emotional at all. I actually used to think something was wrong with me about that, but I'm sensitive, which means that I can feel atmospheres. I can feel things or what have you. And God wired me that way. And I didn't understand it at one point. He wired me that way because of what he wanted to do in my life. So creativity is just being sensitive to the creator. Creativity is just being sensitive to the creator. And I believe that if you listen to this message in its entirety on tonight, I don't plan to keep you very long. If you listen to this in its entirety on tonight, I believe that whatever it is that you are needing to produce, attempting to produce, whatever you've been, I'll say, motivated to produce, I believe that you will get it out. You will produce it. You will go ahead and produce it. So shout out to Esther Prep, the students of Esther Prep in the house. We had our meeting tonight, and so to see you guys up, it is amazing. It is amazing. So I'm going to give you some of the things, creative warfare, some of the things that the enemy does to keep you from creating. I'm going to give you a few, and then I'm going to run away. Because I'm hungry. But I'm going to give you a few tips, a few things that the enemy does. And I wrote down a few things, and I'll move up the list instead of me coming down the list. So I'll go from 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 if I have time on tonight. But I want to do it relatively quick. I want to talk about some of the things that the enemy will do to keep you from producing. Because first and foremost, it needs to be understood if you are an empath, 9 times out of 10, you're a prophet or a prophetic person, which also means that you're creative and God wired you that way so that you can be super sensitive to his presence. And so for me, for example, I didn't start discovering a lot of my gifting until I was in my mid 30s. I didn't start because I was like a lot of people that are creative. I was just walking around living my life, making all these plans, not understanding why I react to things the way that I do, why I make the decisions that I do. I didn't understand those things about me. And I've come to understand that this is why God says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. God wants you to get to know him first, because if you get to know yourself first, then you'll make an idol out of you. But God wants you to get to know him first. And then when you get to know him, he gives you revelation of you. He gives you revelation of yourself. And the reason he does it that way is so that you don't disconnect your purpose from him. You don't just sit there and think that you are a beast, or you think that you are creative. You think that, hey, I got all these special skills and all that. God doesn't want you to disconnect those things from him. He wants you to understand that he is the creator. Therefore, you are creative. You were created in his image. And every gift that you have is designed to give him glory. Every gift that you have is designed to give him glory. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and move into it. But before I do, the only thing that I'm going to ask of you is that you like and share this, and that you guys pray that I don't have an allergy attack over here. But like and share it. We're going to talk about some creative warfare so that you can be abreast to the attack of the enemy. You'll see how the enemy moves. And I believe that once you realize how he moves, you can stop him in his tracks. Once you realize how he moves, you can stop him in his tracks. And if you don't know, on what I am a self-professed, not produced, Lord, a self-professed mass producer, meaning I'm always producing something. I'm always creating something. Ever since I discovered my gifts, my talents, ever since those things came awaken me, that's one of the things that, I don't feel right if I don't finish something or if I'm not working on something or what have you, because I'm a mass producer. I get a lot of joy in my producing. And it's funny because I realized that over the course of my life, those times, like if I had known that about myself, I would not have wasted so much time doing some of the crazy things that I had done. I would have been producing at an early age. Some of you may be in your 20s and you need to be producing right now. You need to be producing right now. That way, by the time you get to my age, you'll have enough systems and things in place where you will make a lot of money. So let me say this before I get into the pointers. When it comes to businesses, this is something that I teach in Entrepreneur's Corner. When it comes to business and things like that, a business is not really complete. It has not reached its highest level of potential until you have an automated system attached to that business. So what you have to do is you start a business, you run the business, you do all of the hard work, and you deal with all the frustration, you deal with all these different things. But the goal is to create a system around that business. The goal is to create a system around that business. Let's just say, for example, that you own a coffee shop. You own a coffee shop. The last thing that you want to do is spend the rest of your life creating $99 cups of coffee, or creating cups of coffee for $3 or $5. That's the last thing that you want to do. And a lot of people go out of business because they don't understand the need for a system. They keep on doing the same old thing. The goal is to create a system. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to establish your own unique fingerprint on that industry. You're supposed to also grow that company. You don't want to just sell coffee. You want to bring in bagels. You want to bring in different things that people may be interested in, but you want to create your own. So you would have to create your own unique blend of coffee. And then that coffee shop, your own unique blend, something that people are going to constantly keep coming back to that coffee shop for because they love your unique blend. Then after a while, once you have established that when people are coming in, it's just like Big Mac, they established their own sauce. McDonald's established their own sauce. They got that, which is just really Thousand Island, but they mixed it up or what have you. And that's what made them hit the superstar status that they have right now. So your goal is to, yes, be innovative, but your goal is to sit there and create a system. And once you've established your own coffee, let's say your own unique blend or a grouping, like different blends within your own company that causes you to stand out from Starbucks and other companies, people will start coming in from that. And then that's when you create the system. What is a system? You want to make sure that you release your own brand into the stores. I got a sister in Christ who did that, but you want to make sure that you release your own brand into the stores. It's just like doing hair. I remember talking to this girl some years ago, and while I was talking to her, she was talking about, this stuff that she put together when she's doing people hair, and it helps their edges to lay down and stuff like that. And I said, girl, market that stuff. She had learned that in the industry. And I said, it's never the will of God for you to sit there and do hair for the rest of your life. You're not going to make enough money doing it. That may be your passion. That may be something that you do, but you have not perfected that gift until you actually begin to put stuff out there that can help other people. So you want to have a system. A system in this particular case would be maybe hair care products. And not only that, but having a group of people that work for you, that can employ some of the tactics that you teach them, having your own school. So that's when you begin to create a system. So many of you may not have created something yet. So don't think that this isn't for you. If you feel like, well, I haven't created anything yet. I know that I'm creative, but I haven't necessarily created anything yet. Don't think that this isn't for you, because if you identify yourself as an empath, then you are 9 times out of 10 a creative person. You just have not tapped into that level or that side of yourself as of yet, because the enemy is busy distracting you on another side of your potential. Did you hear that? Did that make sense to you? The enemy is too busy distracting you on another side of your potential. He's too busy distracting you on another side of your potential. So he may have you distracted by relationships or what have you. So you don't get into the creative side of you because you're too busy over here trying to entertain somebody, or you're too busy over here trying to build somebody else's company. You go over there working for the telephone company, and you're so distracted by that because now you're dealing with the frustration of the job. You're dealing with all those things that come with the job. By the time you come home, you have no energy left. But you are a creative person. I was talking to my little sister today, and she told me that she plays this game, and I don't remember what the name of the game, but she was talking about where you can like design homes in it or what have you. So she does all these designs, and I just started thinking about because she's a creative, but she just hasn't really tapped into her creativity. And I began to think about all of the creative distractions that the enemy has out there. All of those things, like if you're sitting here and you're playing apps, or playing games to decorate stuff, why not do that in real life? Why not do that in real life? Why would you sit there and spend hours upon hours doing that? And of course, with her, that's something that I'm going to be pushing her in the future. But that's one of the things that she was doing. She was telling me about how she spent so much time playing this game because I told her I had shipped her one of my newest coloring books. With that being said, I did ship out all the coloring books on today. So you guys should get them within the next 3 days. I was a little salty earlier because I charge everybody $6 for shipping, and they charged me $8.55 for shipping. So I was a little bit salty. And to my international folks, I love y'all, but all right, so let's go ahead and get into the pointers. I'm going to talk about creative warfare, just some of the tactics that the enemy uses to keep you from producing. Number one, and I'm just actually number 8, I'm going from the bottom up, is no safe place to produce. No safe place to produce. We talked about this. Honestly, one of the things I came to discover is when I got to a place where I started feeling safe, all of my gifts started rising to the top. I started becoming more creative. I started seeing gifts I didn't know I had or what have you because I had a safe place. I wasn't distracted by a lot of things. Now, please hear me when I say this, because I know that many of us, a lot of times we get so caught up in this whole, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be married, I want to have me a man. To my brothers in Christ, you may, say, hey, you want to have a woman, and that's all good. There's nothing wrong with that. But purpose needs to come before relationship. You need to get into not just your purpose, but how you fund that purpose. Your creativity is how you fund your purpose. Your creativity is not your purpose. It's how you fund your purpose. And when you don't know who you are or how you are, what you do is you try to find yourself in relationships. Consequently, you won't be satisfied with whoever you get with, because the only thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to constantly be looking for them to give you some type of affirmation or what have you. You're not going to feel completely satisfied. So no safe place to produce. I learned once I got into a safe place, I learned the value of a safe place. And a lot of people never get into a safe place because, one, if you've never been in a place of safety, you don't necessarily know the need for it. If you've never been in a place of safety, then you just don't know the need for it. You don't understand the need for it. So you never had a safe place to produce. So you probably surround yourself with toxic people. You surround yourself with people who are not doing anything. This is one of the things that happened to me too. Whenever I began to walk in my purpose, whenever I began to become more creative and produce things, I had a shifting in my life. It was like so many of my friends, they fell away from me. And these were the friends who weren't necessarily doing anything. I didn't have the time to sit up on the phone and talk for hours on end. I didn't have that time anymore because, one, it was pointless. Two, I became cognizant of the fact while I was sitting on the phone thinking to myself, I'm on the phone listening to this girl hum. I'm on the phone listening to her hum. I could actually be off this phone working on this. And so I got to a space where I started saying to my friends, hey, listen, I'll call you back. I got to that spot, and just doing that was enough to kind of end some relationships, because those friends, they weren't accustomed to that. They're like, what you doing now? I'm like, I'm about to work on this. So whenever you're dealing with people who are idle, they can only be around idle people. People who are producers or even mass producers cannot be around idle people, because idle people want too much time. Idle people want to talk on the phone every day for 4-5 hours a day. They want to talk about, their wig. Girl, I just went and got me another wig. It looked real nice on me. Okay. So that's number 8. No safe place to produce. You need to get into a safe place to produce. And I know that you may say, well, how do I get into a safe place? It's as simple as this. Get up, begin to pray, submit yourself to God. Now, let me say this. You don't have to close doors on relationships. This is one of the lessons that I've learned. You don't have, because at one stage in my life, and a lot of people tell me, they say, Tiffany, I got friends around me that I know that God don't want around me. And one of the lessons that I learned over the course of my life is I did not have to close doors on people. All I had to do was change. Can two walk together except they be agreed? All I had to do was fall out of agreement with them. That was it. All I had to do was get busy. All I had to do was no longer be interested in things that were toxic, things that were ungodly, and just change my views, change my perspective. And those people began to fall away from me. They begin to fall away from me. So you have to change your mind. You can't just sit there and say, well, I want better friends, because that mindset has people thinking that, okay, Tiffany, I want better friends. I want to get rid of these toxic friends that I got, but I want to have better friends. I want to have some healthy friends. I want to have some good, godly friends to be around. That's not always the best thing. And I'm going to say it this way, because when you're coming out of that type of environment, then you yourself are toxic. When you've been around narcissists and toxic people, you are a toxic person. You're going to be toxic. And so even though you may desire a lot of people around you, you may desire people to come around you who are, healthy or what have you, you're going to do toxic things to those people. And so that's the reason why there's a space between those seasons. A lot of times people fall away, and then you find that there's a time you don't have any friends. That's the wilderness season. And what God is trying to do in that season is just deliver you from all that toxicity. He wants you to get some books. He wants you to get mentors. He wants you to get into a good church home. He wants you to study that word and show yourself approved for the next season. He wants you to pursue your purpose. He wants you to pursue him more than anything. But all too often we have that leave it mentality. Like, a lot of people have a mentality that, okay, I can't get rid of my toxic friends until I have better friends. That's that exchange. It's no different. And I've had women in my family like this, what have you. There are people out there, and it's not just women, but they feel like I cannot go to the next relationship. Like, there can be no space between relationships with them. There can be no space for them to heal, get delivered, get revelation. There can be no space. They will never leave. They can be in an abusive relationship. They can be with somebody that's mishandling them, dogging them out, and they will not leave that person until they have another relationship. They have to leave for another person. They have to absolutely leave for another person. That is an erroneous, ungodly mindset, and that's something that you want to be delivered from. But people still have that same perspective when it comes to their friends. A lot of times people feel like, well, I know I got bad friends. I know I got toxic friends. However, if I let them go, if I get rid of them, then I'm not going to have any friends. Well, that's okay. There's a space where you need to get healed and delivered, because if you go straight into another friendship with somebody else, you're going to go in there toxic. And then you're going to go up in there and you're going to do a lot of stuff, and you may cause those women or those guys to become toxic as well. You'll go in there and hurt them. And so there's a season where God is trying to get you free. There's a season where God is trying to just change your mind. But you got to get out of that mentality of, okay, well, I can only let go of this if I have that. That same mentality goes into, let's say, jobs. A lot of times people will say, well, I'll start the business when I make this much money. And you will never see that much money in your life, because you will sit there and work that 9 to 5 all of your life, refusing to start the business, talking about you ain't got enough money. That's that mentality that I cannot walk away from one thing, or I can't do, multiple things. So this has to produce this for me, or that has to produce that for me. And so you're basically trying to leave one situation for the other. And many times it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So let's move on. Number 7, creative warfare, wrongful relationship with money. Wrongful relationship with money, aka cheap. You cheap. You cheap. I said a nice way. wrongful relationship with money. But the not so nice way is, sis, bro, you cheat. When starting a business, one of the things that you'll come to understand is that you do have to make an investment. And it can't be, well, I'm just going to start off, I'm going to go and get me this for now, and then I'll grow, and I'll be able to afford this later. That mentality has killed a lot of businesses. Because let's just say, for example, this is one of the earrings I had on earlier today. I lost the other one. It is in my car somewhere. But this is a really good quality earring. Let's just say the person who created this earring decided, well, I don't really want to spend the money to use this product. So I'm going to kind of use some straw, like something really cheap. And then, eventually I'll go and create the one that I want to create. Then the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to develop a reputation. Your reputation matters in the world of business. So while you're being cheap, the only thing that you're doing is developing a reputation. While you're being cheap, the only thing you're doing is developing a reputation. So now you're going to attract cheap people. I'm going to tell you something, being in business, the worst people, absolute worst people to work with ever in the corner of your life is a cheap person. Cheap people, good God, they want the most for the least. They will sit back and be like, order a logo from you and pay $200 and expect you to work for them for the next week. And you're like, ma'am, logo's done. And they can't accept that because $200, they have a wrongful relationship with money. One of the things I got a chance to see is that when you have a wrongful relationship with money, you have trouble releasing it. Even when you give it, even when you buy something, even when you sow it, you don't let go of it. That's the reason why you treat McDonald's workers so crappy. It's because you still holding on to the money that's in the register. You still feel like they owe you something. You still feel like they owe you something. How to stop being a cheapskate? You have to just invest. It's all about really priorities, because when you're dealing with cheapskates are not always cheap in all things. It's just a misalignment of priorities. So basically, when you're dealing with somebody who's a cheaphead, they're going to put a lot of money into what they think is beneficial, what they think is good, but they're not going to put a lot of money into other things. So especially when, thank you, Sister Sally, God bless you. Especially when it comes to paying people, if they can see you face to face, if they can see you personally, they're just not going to pay you. They're not going to pay you. And that's just what happens. So it has to be a rearranging of priorities. And first and foremost, seek ye first the kingdom of God. God has to be first. But you have to get yourself maybe some books, make sure you have a mentor so that you can come to find out what's out of order in your life. As a matter of fact, you need to write down a list of how you rank things in your life. So you may be sitting there and let's say, for example, you get paid once a month, maybe. Let's say if you got paid once a month. That whenever you get paid, the first thing you're thinking about is getting your hair done and getting yourself some new clothes. That's a misalignment of priorities. And I've had plenty of conversations with people like that. That's a misalignment of priorities. So first and foremost, you want to make sure you're tired. Secondly, you want to make sure that you kill those bills. Those bills that come in, you want to shoot them in the head. You want to kill them dead. But if you are, honestly, a misalignment of priority is just a misalignment of the soul. Because remember, we talked about the way the soul should be set up. Mind, will, and emotions should be at the bottom. But when your emotions are at the top, then basically that's a picture of poverty. When your emotions are at the top, you're always financing your feelings because your feelings are your God. You're always financing how you feel. And so I'll give you an example. When I used to work at Walmart, now I don't know how it works now, but I remember when I used to work at Walmart, people used to get food stamps. They used to get that, like welfare used to come out on the first of the month. They would get, I think it was some people that got their food stamps on the first and some they got theirs on the 14th, but all welfare checks came out on the first. All welfare checks came out on the first. And boy, on the first of the month, nobody wanted to come to work. We had to come up in there. They had the store stocked because people had a misalignment of priorities. And that's all poverty really is. It was just people were coming into the store. They got a check and they're in a store. And rather than putting that money up and trying to do something with it, they will be in that store, ripping that store to pieces, just buying up everything that they don't need. Buying up everything that they don't need. You'll see people with TVs, You see people, they tear the clothing section up. The store used to be torn up, completely destroyed. And it's just emotional people. The first of the month, we already knew you just kind of stay out the way, because some of those people will come up in there and they will cuss you out. You like the attitudes, emotional people. They were just emotional. They were driven by their emotions. So really, a lot of times when you see poverty, it's just a person who has their emotions at the top of the spectrum. If their emotions are at the top of the spectrum, they are a slave to how they feel. I don't feel like working for nobody. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing that. But I do want to go out. I do want to eat. I do want to have this. I do want to do that. And so they become a slave to how they feel. So again, they used to come into the store on the first of the month and completely destroy the store. And not only that, you would have people that were in there were loud. They were rude. It was a mindset. It was a mindset. So that's a wrongful relationship with money. Wrongful relationship with money. Yes, chakras are demonic. But that's a wrongful relationship with money. Money should serve you. You shouldn't serve it. Money should serve you. You shouldn't serve it. I remember when I was at a stage in my life where I was serving money, man, I was chasing it like crazy. I was doing everything. I was like, okay, let me do this sale. Let me do this advertisement. And it got to a point where my relationship with God, I just continued to build on that. And God changed that around. And what ended up happening was when I changed directions, money started chasing me. And I had to put up things like, okay, well, this money isn't good. That money isn't good. My mind completely changed. But a wrongful relationship with money causes money to take up wings and fly away from you. A wrongful relationship with money causes money to just get up and get away from you. A wrongful relationship with money. When you have a good, godly relationship with money, you learn how to be a blessing to people. When you have a good, godly relationship with money, you can sit there and you got the choice between buying yourself a brand new wig and helping that man out that's on the side of the road. You will let that wig go and help that man. When God sees love, he blesses that. But when he sees selfishness, he lets you have at it. When he sees that the most important thing to you is your appearance than somebody else's livelihood, then what ends up happening is money will run away from you. Money will take up wings and fly away from you because you have a wrongful relationship with it. But when you have a good, godly relationship with money, money will come and it will chase you. It will overwhelm you. And not only will it overwhelm you, it'll get to the point where you basically look at money, and you may not think this happens, but people actually do this, where people get up and they just put their hand out like, okay, this is enough, because right now I got so much going. I got so many things happening in my life or what have you, because they have enough money in their account, so they're not moved by that. People who are broke are moved by the amount of money they have in their accounts. They look in their accounts and they like, oh, I'm finally here, I'm finally there. As a matter of fact, just a little bit on poverty, so you know, poverty is driven by emotionalism. And one of the things I got a chance, because I grew up in poverty, one of the things I got a chance to see when it came to poverty was that people who lived in poverty, what it is that Satan basically gives you an allowance of your own money. Satan basically just gives you an allowance of your own money. So what Satan does is he'll limit you to a group of friends. He'll limit you to everything. If you go beyond that, then you start getting into your feelings. You start getting into your feelings. And one of the things I came to see, that whenever a person deals with poverty, they're only accustomed to having a certain amount of money in their bank account. They're only accustomed to having a certain amount of money in their pocket. And so if anything goes beyond that, they lose their peace. Anything that goes beyond that, they lose their peace. And when I say they lose their peace, it does not mean that they become sad or depressed. No, they can't stop thinking about what they want. They can't stop thinking. They start thinking about everything. And hear me when I say this. It doesn't matter how much money you get. There will always be things that you want. It just does not end, man. The human soul is never satisfied. It just doesn't end. But you got to have a reign of that. You got to have rule over your soul. But a person who deals in poverty, let's just say, after paying bills and all of that, they're only accustomed to having $200 left for spending money. And most broke folks don't have that. Most broke folks, I'm just being nice when I say 200, Because I've lived in poverty before. Most broke folks don't have $200 spending money. But let's just be nice today and say you have $200 a month extra spending money after paying your bills or what have you. Anything that goes beyond that 200, let's just say you are able to keep a good and tight hold on that 200 because you have to consider gas that you got to put in your car. Plus you want to get your nails done or what have you. So that $200 is really not extra because, you got other things that you have to do with it. So you're pretty much kind of just living paycheck. If you only get $200, then you're going to pretty much do the same thing every month. You're going to do the consistent thing every month. If you go beyond that $200, what's going to end up happening is, if you go beyond that $200, what's going to end up happening is you lose your peace. You lose your peace. Then you're going to start thinking about what you don't have. You're going to start thinking about what you don't have. Oh, girl, I always wanted to give me some of them lemonade braids. I always wanted, how much they charge? $220. Okay, I'm going to give me some lemonade braids. And I'm going to go get my nails done, but I don't want the standard thing. I want this, I want that. That's poverty. That's a poverty mindset because you're being driven by emotionalism. Whenever you come outside of the poverty mindset, then you come to understand that, yes, I have a feeling. And while I may want those lemonade braids, it may not be necessarily a wise thing for me to get right now. I'm not going to invest in that. But when you're driven by your emotions, all you can think about is what people think about you and how you're going to look. And so every time you get $1 over what you're accustomed to having, you will spend it. I lived that even as a grown woman. If anything that goes above that, and you guys know I shared this story about my brother, and then I'll move on from here. But I shared this story about my brother that was an example of it. It was the funniest story. We were at my mother's house, and at this time I was married. My ex and I, we were, his job was going to start in Florida, like in a couple of months or what have you. And so we were at my mother's house because, until his job started, that was that. We had just moved from Germany. And my brother was there. My sister was there at my mother's house as well. And I remember one particular day, me and my sister went into the kitchen and we just started cooking. And we were cooking up a buffet, because I talked to my sister today. We were talking about that, well, not that particular situation, but how Southern women are, how we get our wings. Like we get excited when people are eating our cooking. Like if we don't have people around to eat our cooking, we'll probably be in somebody's drive-through. But we like to cook for people. We like to cook for people or what have you. She was telling me how she likes to massage the seasonings into the food and all that. So, my sister and I were in the kitchen cooking because we had an audience. I had my ex, we had my brother there, my mom's boyfriend he was a history lesson by then, praise the Lord. But we were cooking, and so we were cooking a buffet. I had went to the grocery store, bought some stuff. We were cooking a buffet. And I remember, and for those of you, we can have a debate on this, but we're not going to do that right now. But I remember one of the things that we cook in Mississippi. I don't know if that's an entirety Mississippi, but I've seen this debate on Facebook, and people say they don't eat fish and spaghetti. I don't know where y'all been. We eat that in Mississippi. We'll eat fried catfish or fried fish and some spaghetti, and that's a great man. That's a delicious meal. I'm getting hungry thinking about it. But we ate that. And so that's what we were cooking. I think we were cooking fish, pasta. I think my sister was cooking hush puppies. I'm pretty sure we had made, for y'all, those of you who were saying no, it's only because you never tried it before. You've never tried it. Oh, you've never tried it. You never tried it. The textures, all of that is, y'all see, got my mouth watering. I'm telling you, it's delicious. It is delicious. We were raised on that. You didn't see people cook it all the time. It was something like a fish fry, because some fish fries people can have like fish and fries and hush puppies. But yeah, but I saw a lot of people on Facebook that thought it was weird, and other people were like, "Hey, it's delicious." Don't knock it until you try it. Right, with coleslaw, and man, I'm trying to tell you, y'all don't know what y'all missing, but that's what we were cooking. And we up in their kitchen and we just throwing down up in there feeling good. And my brother happened to call into his bank account. Did not know that he had money in his account. Remember I told you poverty is basically you're not accustomed to seeing anything in your account, or you're accustomed to seeing a certain amount. Now with him, he wasn't accustomed to seeing anything. My brother was like this. He's still alive. God, God bless his heart. When I say was like this, I don't want to say he's still like that because I don't know. But my brother, he could not see $1 in his account. It just, my brother, anytime he got money in his account, my brother would always go shopping. It never failed. My brother had this bad habit. He would go and he'd buy video games. He'll buy all the he's still heavily into video games. To the point where he plays online and has his own channel and all this other stuff. But he was heavily into video games. This dude used to buy video games. He'll buy stuff and then realize he ain't got no money and end up pawning it. It's the craziest thing. But he would spend top dollar on all this stuff and then, But this dude, me and my sister in the kitchen cooking, he calls his bank account for whatever reason and discovers he had $30 in his account. He discovered he had $30 in his account. Completely took his piece away. He said, "Oh, I just called my account. I thought they had debited that." He was like, "I got $30." I was like, "Bro, leave that alone. It's okay to have money in your account, And he was like, "No, this dude ordered a pizza." I will never forget that. I've shared that story like 100 times. Dude ordered a pizza. He ordered a pizza while we in there throwing down in the kitchen. And when I say throwing down, I hate to say this because I ain't trying to brag, but I'm from Mississippi. But that's what we do. We throw down. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people in Mississippi who can't cook, especially this generation coming up now, because I ain't never. But dude ordered pizza because his piece left. He could not comprehend having money in his account. It just bothered him. Seeing it there, it had to go. And that's what poverty does. Poverty will make you call your bank account, and let's say you get a child support payment in. For those of you who are mothers, you didn't even know it was there. You call there and your bank account said your balance is $874.22. You get excited because you weren't expecting that money. Rather than allowing it to stay in your account for a rainy day and just putting it to it's gonna eat you. That's what, because your emotions are at the top of the spectrum. It's gonna eat you. You'll be sitting up there thinking about, "Oh, girl, what you doing tomorrow? You want to go out to eat? Girl, I can't believe, they gave me my payment and what have you." And you're going to go out there and you're going to start spending a little bit at a time. And you're going to keep on spending. Now, he needs shoes. I had to get him some new shoes. Baby girl, he 3. He don't need Jordans. He don't need no Jordans. Says you don't need to pay $100 for a pair of shoes for a 3-year-old. He don't need Jordan. He gonna grow out of them within the next few months. But when you deal with rejection, when you deal with a poverty mindset, you're emotional. You care more about what people think about you than what's in your account. Your bank account is made to serve what people think about you. So now your son got on a pair of Jordans and he got on all the freshest of clothes made to look like the man who left you. And you walking around here broke. And once the money gets to a spot, once it gets back to the spot where you're accustomed to having it, that's when you go back to solid. You stop moving around. I got a chance to see that with people in my family. How if any extra money came into their account, they went out there. They were out there. But once that money started kind of dwindling down to what they were used to, they'll try to they'll be like, "We're going to have to stop because, I done went out here and I done did this." And then they're going to get up the next day and they're going to go to Sonic. And then they're going to get up the next day and they're going to get themselves a pair of shoes. And they're going to keep on doing it until what's in their bank account is what they're accustomed to having. If it's just $200, when they look in and they see that $200, that's when they're going to put a rain on it. That is a poverty mindset. And I wish we would come out of that thinking too, sis. But honestly, whenever there's trauma, it makes me think of a car accident. If somebody has a car accident, a lot of times it can throw what's in the front seat to the back seat or what's in the back seat to the front seat. And when trauma hits a person, the soul gets to the top. Well, the emotions get to the top of the soul. The emotion's supposed to be at the bottom. And a lot of African Americans are traumatized. A lot of African Americans, because a lot of people say, well, you weren't raised in slavery. You weren't. No, we were raised by traumatized people, and traumatized people can only raise traumatized people. They will traumatize their children. We know that. They traumatize their children. So we were raised by people who were traumatized, who were dealing with levels of trauma. And consequently, they started traumatizing us. And so they were emotional. And in order for us to really just survive in that house, you had to either be emotional with them, or you had to become logical. You had to become logical. And if you were logical, then you probably dealt with a lot of abuse. If you were logical, you probably dealt with a lot of abuse, because then they would start saying you think you're better than them and all that. That's because your emotions are at the top of that spectrum, and it's supposed to be at the bottom of that spectrum. But that's what trauma does. All right, let's move on. Remember, we're moving up. Number 8 was no safe place to produce. Number 7 was wrongful relationship with money. Number 6 is people bondage. Insecurity. You care about what people think. You make your money serve and your creativity serve people. People bondage. Let me see if I have this one on here. Okay, so I'll make sure I didn't kind of go into that. But people bondage. You're afraid of what people are going to say about you. You're afraid. A lot of times what happens, and I'm going to tell you, and I tell people this, sometimes, let's say it starts in a family. Sometimes your family can have low expectations of you based on your parents' condition. So you have parents that are not necessarily emotionally and mentally healthy or what have you. And so they're kind of toxic, or they're raising you in a bad way. And your family members, they see that, and they pretty much just write you off as, and as a child, you go out there, you do a lot of crazy things. People discount you. People are going to write you off. And one of the lessons I had to learn is that once people write you off, there's a lot of warfare whenever you begin to exceed their expectations of you, because you're calling them a liar. You're calling them wrong whenever you begin to heal and you begin to develop into who God called you to be. And a lot of times we feel a sense of loyalty towards their expectations. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? A lot of times we can feel loyalty towards people's expectations of us, meaning if they don't expect you to accomplish much, then maybe you feel loyal to that. So you don't try to accomplish much. You don't try to go beyond what they expect of you. And believe me when I tell you, that's more common than you know. Most of you on here, many of you on here are probably suffering through that. The reason you haven't produced anything is because there are people out there that don't expect you to do much of anything, or there are people out there who don't feel like you are qualified. You're qualified. Who are you to write a book on this? Who are you? I remember when I was getting ready to go through a second divorce, I remember praying, and I really just did not feel qualified. I was like, I didn't want to write about marriage anymore. I didn't want to teach about relationships anymore. And that was the area God was throwing me in to teach relationships. I'm like, but what was I doing? I kept thinking about what people were going to say, what people were going to think about me. That was my greatest fear. Like, all I could hear was people saying, how you going to listen to her? Or what have you. And I specifically told the Lord I didn't want to teach on relationships. I didn't want to have nothing else to do with relationships. But he continued to throw me into that ring to teach on it. But people bondage. And most of the times it starts within a family. You have to come outside of your aunties, your cousins, all of their expectations of you. But then it's also, you got to get past the community. The community. This is the reason why a prophet is not without honor, except prophet is not without honor except in his own country. Yeah, what was that? No. That's not how that's supposed to be said. Hold up. I know it by heart until you go live. Okay. Let's see here. But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and his own house. So the honor that is due to you, you won't find it in familiarity. You're not going to find it with your family. You're not going to find it with your community. A lot of times people have this expectation of you, and they have this view of you, and they're just not going to let you escape it. Now, some people will celebrate you, but a lot of people, this is what the crabs in the bucket mentality is derived from. It's not necessarily jealousy. A lot of times it could be jealousy, but it's not always jealousy. In many cases, it's just people not wanting to be wrong. When you had that aunt, thank you, Elroy, God bless you. When you had that aunt who said you weren't gonna be nothing but a baby's mama and you weren't gonna do anything, whenever you started doing stuff, you started making her feel some type of way. You started making her feel some type of way, and she became fearful. A lot of times, people in fear you becoming successful and you testifying about them. You testifying and you coming out on camera and saying, "Yeah, I remember I had this aunt who said that I would never be anything, or these people, or what have you." And people don't want to be on the wrong side of your testimony. But the problem is they just wrote you off. And so people bondage and insecurity, that's one of the things I can honestly say this. If you can get past people bondage and insecurity, that's a fight, and I'm still in that fight myself. But if you can get past people bondage and insecurity, I can honestly tell you the sky's the limit for you. If you can get your emotions on the bottom of that spectrum and you can get past people bondage and you no longer care what people think about you, there is nothing that you can't do, because your creativity will explode. Your creativity would explode because you won't double think what God tries to give you. Because a lot of double thinking comes from you being afraid of what people are going to say, or being afraid of failing. Yes, and what? Many times you have to move from the state. Matter of fact, when I lived in Mississippi, I had certain levels of creativity. My creativity didn't explode till I moved to Germany. My creativity really exploded when I was in Germany. And then when I moved back to Mississippi, I was just too distracted. But when I went to Florida, that's when it really started coming out. A lot of people are bound to their families. They're bound to, all these people around them and the expectations that the people have of them, or what have you. And they don't want to disappoint those people. So let's move on. Number 5, we're moving up. Relationships. So this is creative warfare. When the enemy wants to stop you from creating, a lot of times he's going to use relational warfare. So you go out there and maybe you meet a dude, right? You move out of state, you'd be surprised at what you can produce. First and foremost, to move away from the people that you know, to move away from family, to move away from familiar faces does require a level of faith. It requires a level of faith. And to move to a place where you don't have family, or you don't have that much family, or what have you, it does force you to become more creative, because you don't have people to hang out with. Then you're also not a slave to their opinions, or what have you. So it allows you to become more creative. Remember, you need a safe place to produce. Part of having a safe place is being in a spot where you're not distracted. So anyhow, let's move on. Relationships. The enemy uses that. Now, I have a remnant writers class, and you guys know I've been talking to y'all about it. I know many of you have signed up for the remnant writers class, where you express interest by signing the form for the remnant writers class. Please hear me when I say this, because I've gotten contacted about it many, many times. I do plan on releasing it within about a month. I'm going to release registration probably in a week or two. The reason I haven't released registration right now is because I have other projects that I'm working on, and I want to make sure that I dedicate my headspace to fleshing it out the right way. I don't want to do something quick. I don't want to throw something together. Like I got an idea, but I like to kind of have those 2 days to be able to just really think. But I'm working on customer projects. Once I get those customer projects, squared away, I got some customer projects and what have you. Once I get those squared away, then I can sit down and kind of flesh that out. But relationships. The enemy will throw a relationship at you. He will distract you with a relationship. That's creative warfare. First and foremost, you are creative, but the enemy is creative as well. He's creative. And he will use his creativity to create warfare for you. So he'll bring somebody into your life, especially if you're desperate for a relationship. If you're desperate, if you're up there talking about somebody, I can't wait to get married or what have you, then the enemy will throw somebody your way. And all of a sudden, you'll have somebody talking about, hey, what's your name? Or what have you. And so that's just a form of creative warfare. Another form of that is maybe you're contacted by exes. Now, this is one of the things I don't understand and make it make sense to me, is why some of y'all still have the same phone number that your exes used to call. I don't understand it. I don't understand that. I mean, yeah, people can try to use, honestly, that kind of stuff doesn't work on Christians. That stuff don't work on Christians. People can play with voodoo all day long. But honestly, when people are playing with demons, honestly, when they're playing with witchcraft, all they're doing is deploying demons. All they're doing, witchcraft is just basically they're giving their authority to a demon to come out. And yeah, you're a Christian. You're a Christian. Demon come out there, you bind them up. You bind them up. But the enemy will use that to distract you. So I know what I was talking about. My remnant writers class, I warn them. Anytime I have a remnant writers class, I warn them about the warfare. And I've literally seen this happen. I've seen people come to class and I say, listen, there is a signal that goes out in the spirit. Whatever doors you have not fully closed, something's going to come through those doors. Something may come through those doors. If you didn't close that door between that ex and yourself, that ex may reach out to you. And you will be amazed at the number of women that have contacted me and said, Tiffany, I haven't talked to this man in 17 years. I ain't talked to him in 17 years, and this joker contacted me. But what gets me, that part doesn't surprise me. What actually gets me is that women fall into the trap. After having been warned about that, after I had sat here and told you that once you start producing and doing what God wants you to do, the enemy is going to send somebody. He's going to throw dudes at you. It surprises me. A new guy. I mean, test the spirit. But it surprises me the amount of women who fall for the ex because the door was never shut. It surprises me. You will have a woman get halfway through a book. I've seen this in my remnant writers classes. If you want to get contacted by your ex, get into your purpose. But they will be halfway through their book and stop because they got distracted by an ex. Girl, he called. I prayed to the Lord, you change your phone number. I talked to him. And when they say that, I know they're not going to finish their book. And they don't. They don't. They become distracted. They find themselves out there in a relationship with the ex, hanging out with the ex, not realizing that was just a door that was open that needed to be shut. And when he came walking out that door, you should have said, thank you, Lord, for showing me what needs to be shut. I plead the blood over that door. Lord, I ask that you deliver me from that soul tie. I release him in the name of Jesus Christ. I told you guys when I had an ex call me, I told bro, man, I was like, I release you. I release you from whatever. I release you from that. So relationship, this is creative warfare. When you're trying to create, let's say you want to start a business. Let's say you want to build your brand. Let's say that you want to go ahead and, start practicing maybe painting or maybe cooking or what have you. The enemy will utilize relationships as a technology to slow you down, to distract you, and to bring you outside of God's will for you, especially if you're doing anything that's affiliated with Christ. The enemy will try to get you into sin, because if he can get you into sin, he can get you into guilt and shame and condemnation. And then now you no longer feel worthy. Who am I talking to on here? You no longer feel worthy of doing the work because now you're distracted, or because you've fallen into sexual immorality. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? I know you're out there. Who am I talking to? You fall into sexual immorality and you no longer feel worthy of creating anything from God, for God. And what God wants you to see is that whenever that door is open, please understand this. Whenever that door is open, it just simply means that you have not overcome idolatry. You have not overcome idolatry. Thank you for being honest. You have not overcome idolatry. God is not at the top of the spectrum yet. Why? Because your emotions are at the top. The way you get emotions to the bottom of the spectrum is through information. You got to make your mind heavier than your emotions. You got to make your mind heavier than your emotions. You got to have enough wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You got to make sense of it. You got to make sense of it. So if a guy comes up to me and he starts talking about, I want to get to know you better, I got to make sense of that. So I can sit there and I can talk about, we can be on the phone and he says, I'm not into this whole God thing. I ain't going past that. I'm not going past that because I have enough logic to understand that bro man is not for me. If I'm emotional, I will fantasize about him being for me. I will fantasize about him going to church. If I'm emotional, I'll try to bring him to church and try to get him, get him up to the altar. If I'm emotional, I'll be trying to, somebody just got to lay hands. I'll be walking up to the guys at church. Hey, try to see if you can get him to join the women's, not women's, Lord, the men's ministry. If I'm emotional. But if I'm logical, meaning my mind is over my emotions, if I'm logical, I know that ain't gonna work. I don't care how cute he is. It's not gonna work. But when your emotions are at the top of that spectrum, it's because God is not at the top. In order for God to be at the top, you got to know him, which means you need knowledge. Knowledge is information. You need to study your Bible like you ain't got no sense. You need to study your Bible constantly. You need to keep getting the word on the inside of you until your mind overcomes your emotions. Until your mind overcomes your emotions. When your mind overcomes your emotions, you can look at people and be like, I am not wasting my time with you. I'm not wasting my time with you. And I know a lot of times, I feel attacked. A lot of times we say, how do I make it stop? It's simple. Study your word. Go to Bible study. See, okay. I'm going to show you something. For all of you, I think the large majority of people are emotional. And, you're learning now to not be emotional. And I'm teaching you how to not put your emotions, go ahead and put your emotions at the bottom of the spectrum. But how many of you, by show of hands, do not go to Bible study, or you rarely go to Bible study? Show of hands. By show of hands, how many of you rarely show up at Bible study? Let's get some hands. I'm about to help you. Let's get some hands. Thank you. I love the honesty. Because you can help people when they're honest. You know what honesty does? It empties you out. You're emptying yourself. Okay. Remember we talked about priorities. Poverty is priorities, right? It's just a misalignment of priorities. When you don't show up at Bible study, it's because you misdiagnose or you prioritize information low on the spectrum. Oh, definitely. Pray and ask the Lord to lead you to a church home, Sister Nisa, and he will. But when you because going to Bible study requires, I think religion makes us feel obligated to go to church on Sundays. But Wednesdays are for the hungry, or Tuesdays, whenever y'all have Bible study or whatever. That's for the hungry. Every Wednesday, it never seems to fail. Almost every Wednesday, I almost feel tired the whole day. I don't feel like going to church. I just don't. I just want to lay at home. I want to sleep. And it almost always seems to be a day that's busy. But because I want my purpose, because I want what God has for me, I show up. You need information. Your mind, in order for your mind to get over your emotions, you need information. And the reason that you have constantly dealt with some of the things that you dealt with, especially when it came to relationships, is because you have put information as a low priority. Information has been a low priority for you. You don't like to read books. I've heard women, and I can't even talk about people because I don't like reading. But I have no choice but to. I'm always getting information in me every day. I'm always trying to learn something. But you'll be amazed at how many people are in a cycle every day. If you're doing the same thing every day, you're not going anywhere. You can go around church and run 3 laps, 10 laps, where have you, and sit there and be talking about money come to me. It's a new season. And you ain't going nowhere. Faith without works is dead. Being alone. You're not going nowhere. Because if all you do is every day, hear me on this. If every day you come home, you go to work, you come home, and you just following the same system, you're doing the same thing. You go home, you help the kids, you make sure the kids do this, do that. and then you go to bed, and then you get up. You're not going anywhere. Movement for the Christian is information. Movement for the Christian is, okay. I wish I could sing. I do. I wish I could sing. All right. If I could sing, I would sing to you. But since I can't sing, I ain't gonna do you. All right. You familiar with these two words here? Wandering and wandering. This has to do with the mind. This has to do with the feet. Right? So basically, we understand this. Wandering around, wandering this, wandering here. In order for me to go somewhere, I have to move my legs. If I want to leave here and I want to go to the store, I gotta move, right? If I don't move, I gotta walk to the store. I gotta walk to my car to get in the car to go to the store. I have to make some movements. This is the same thing that has to happen with the mind. You have to move the mind. The mind cannot stay in the same space, the same place. And don't get me wrong, I'm talking about you can't feed it familiar information too. Because some of you are just filled. Too much sugar gives you diabetes, right? You're filled with some stuff, but you're not, like the stuff that you need, you're not getting. You need information. And if you're not showing up to Bible study, you prioritize information relatively low in your life. And that's the definition of poverty. You got to move the mind. The mind has to get constant exercise. The mind has to have a book. The mind needs to have videos. You got to constantly, and then you got to keep rehearsing that stuff in your mind, because your mind will reject it. Your mind's going to reject, like information that I teach you, your mind can easily reject it. Because it's got to go to the conscious, then it gets into the subconscious. In order for it to get into the subconscious, you have to believe it in. So if you want to come out of a season, you don't come out of a season by running a lap around a church. I'm not against the lap. Run your lap. When I get skinny again, I'll run some laps. But you don't break curses. You move forward by changing your mind. Changing your mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Being transformed is a whole lesson in my head that's popping up, and I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm not going there, because then we have to go into the deep. But you have to change your mind. Your mind has to get more and more and more information until you become logical. That's not popular. Not only is it not popular, but if you want to know the truth, a lot of women don't like to have a lot of information, because that makes you it lowers your, how do I say this? It disqualifies a lot of men from you. It disqualifies a lot of guys. Because we've seen movies and we've come to understand that, a lot of guys are really intimidated by women that are successful or who have a relative, who are relatively intelligent. And so we would rather in America be cute and dumb than to be average and smart. Thank you, sis. Love you too. We would rather be cute. We would rather buy a wig. We would rather put something on our head than in our head. We would rather be talking about a lace front, girl. The real good ones cost like $600, but you invested, it look like your real hair. It sure do. It look like your real hair. If you want to know anything about men, they don't care nothing about that. That's a whole other lesson. Women care about that. Men don't care about that. I just got them talking about Esther Peppers today. Like, men are not into that. I mean, we always talk about men being visual creatures, but you can do a test run on your page. One thing you'll come to find out is that while men can be visual creatures, it attracts them to the woman, but it doesn't keep the woman or keep them around. And then you got to understand that just because it's a man doesn't mean that's a prize. There are a lot of guys out there, just like there are a lot of women out there who are not prizes, they're curses. So you got to stop thinking that a man is the greatest thing that you could achieve in your life. But that's it. Relationships. You end up getting contacted by an ex, or maybe somebody tries to come into your life. And like I said, a lot of times when you don't close doors, you find yourself in a relationship and you start feeling false happiness and all that. And can't nobody tell you nothing. I tried to reel some of these women back in from not Esther Prep, Remnant Writers class. Like, hey sis, I warned that he was gonna come, and I have to watch them go years and years and years away from writing the book. They don't finish it because every time they try to do something, the enemy's gonna send a dude there where he's gonna send some guy, and the enemy is funny because he's gonna send a crusty guy to see if you will fall for him, and if you do, he ain't got to waste his favorite costume, which is the good looking guy that everybody wants. And that's a whole other story. All right, so let's move on. A fear. This is number 4. Remember, we're going 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We're going up the spectrum. This is creative warfare. This is what the enemy uses to distract you, to keep you from producing or creating. The next one is a fear of finishing, or a fear of releasing a product because you want more glory surrounding it. This was a form of warfare that I experienced, and I'm going to explain it because I know it doesn't make sense the way that I just said it. But sometimes there's a fear of finishing. So let's say you're writing a book. One of the things that you may do that shows a fear of finishing is that every time you get to the end, you keep adding to the book. I be looking because I know I'm talking to somebody. And if it's you, listen, be sensitive. Know when to sow a seed. Sow a seed on top of it. When you know something is blessing you, when you know you look, that's me, God. I want out of this. Sow a seed into it. Sow a seed into it. But every time you get to a finish, you feel like you need to do more. It's warfare. It's warfare. You feel like I need to. And I've had to learn to stop, because that's a fear of that's rejection. That's a fear of people rejecting your product because you feel like I didn't put enough in there. It's not enough revelation. It's not enough in here. It's not enough. I need to add more. And then you find yourself, the book end up being 600, 700 pages. Who am I talking to? I've done that. Book end up being 600, 700 pages and you can't stop. I've had to learn how to sit back and tell myself that is enough. Because I'm always trying to make sure it is, to me, I always kind of think about how we were raised in Mississippi, where we would much rather overfeed you than to underfeed you. We'll give you high blood pressure and diabetes. As long as you die happy, we good. So if you come over in Mississippi, what have you, if you say you coming over, what we'll typically do is we'll overcook. We'll go and buy up the store. We'll have a buffet ready for you by the time you get around. Thank you, Sister Candace. God bless you. Thank you, Sister Elroy. God bless you. We'll have a buffet by the time you come around. We ain't eating all that food. Half of it gonna go to the trash can. If you don't take it with you, half of it gonna go to the trash can. So we have a fear of finishing. And every time we get to the point where we about to finish, this can't be happening. Amen. Amen, Brother Justin. This can't be happening. I need to add more to this book. I need to add more to this business plan before I can flesh it out. I need to do more. No. Thank you, Sister Megan. God bless you. Wow. Thank you, Sister Megan. God bless you. A fear of finishing or releasing a product. I got a book called Microscribology, which is one of my most powerful books that I've ever written. And that's for the scribe. For those of you who are called to write, it talks about the spiritual side of, but I never did an official release on it. And I still have to do it because I didn't feel like I could release it the way I wanted to. Like there was just something there that I felt like, nah, this book is too powerful for me to just do a YouTube video and this. Like I felt like it needed to have bells and whistles. That's warfare. That's warfare. The book has been out like 2 years now. That's warfare. I felt like I needed to have bells and whistles surrounding it. Like it needs to have, like some type of explosion. It needs to have this. That book is too powerful. Consequently, I never did a release on it. I'm gonna do a release. I never did a release on it. I never officially introduced it to the world. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a thick book. It's about what, 500-600 pages. And it was one of those cases where I just couldn't stop writing. Most powerful book that I've written. I say that to myself. That book is powerful. It helps you to understand your level as a writer. The spiritual. It's a powerful book. You can definitely use it as a weapon. In the spirit and in the natural, you can knock somebody straight, stone cold out with that book. But you always feel like, well, I want to release it because I've had customers who publish their books through me. And one of the rules that I have, like if you publish your book through me, I won't advertise your book until you advertise it. I won't advertise your book. And it's annoying at times because sometimes I'll do a cover and, the book, everything looks good. And I'm ready to show to the world, like this came out of my company. And the person just does not advertise it. The person just doesn't advertise it. They don't post it up to their page. And I'm sitting there, I'll watch their page, go to their page and see if they advertised it yet. No. You know why? Because they don't feel comfortable enough. They don't feel comfortable. They feel like they need more attention surrounding that. And just so, I'm going to move to the next one from behind this. But just so that you know, everything that you do doesn't have to have an explosion. It doesn't have to have huge. Thank you, Sister Trina. God bless you. God bless you. It doesn't have to have a big explosion surrounding it. And everything that you do doesn't have to have that. Some things that you're going to release as a creative are going to be small. And they're going to surprise you. Other things will be big and they will surprise you. So there are some small projects that you may release that may not get attention today, but they'll get attention some later on. That's one. Listen, I'm teaching you. There are sometimes you will release something and it may not have the attention that you want. It may not get it may not get the accolades that you know that it has the potential to get. But if you wait on it, if you just sit there and you keep producing, later on down the road, that thing will bless your life. Later on down the road, it could be a viral video. Let's say, for example, demonology. When I wrote the book, The Spirit of Heaviness and All Its Cousins, I was not into demonology. Matter of fact, I knew little to nothing about demonology. When I wrote that book, I wrote it back in 2000. I knew little to nothing about that. I had a dream and I just took the revelation God gave me. And that was the third book I've written. That's my best-selling book to this day. Now I know demonology. Now that I know it's a thin book, but it's my best-selling book to this day. Some of the logos on my website, I created them back in 2015, 2014, and they have not sold. When I create new logos, it's funny because sometimes people come and they look at the new logos and they're like, oh, that's nice. And then they'll go buy one of the old ones. So some of the stuff that you create today is designed to bless you tomorrow. And so if it's not there, it's not there for you to get blessed by. I often give this example and I'll move on. I always talk about the couple where the guy blindfolded the girl and, proposed to her. He proposed to her blindfolded and made her thought they were going on a photo shoot. And really he had her, it was a video that went viral. And they went and got married, had her blindfolded. Then when they took the blindfolds off, she was at her own wedding. Video went viral. Last time I checked, it was like 16 million views. If I'm thinking right, either 16 million or 35 million. Numbers I tend to remember, but it was high. And they waited till a year later to release a book. I said, man, can you imagine if he had journeyed his process? Can you imagine that? If he knew a year before then how he was going to propose to her and he journeyed the process, if he journaled the process, if he had journaled the process and he turned around and just right after, like the last chapter was going to be him proposing. I mean, the marriage, that was going to be the last chapter, what have you. And the last chapter would have been, and he had released that. I would have had that ready. I'd have been like, listen, babe, I know we just got married. And we on our honeymoon. But I got one chapter left to finish. And honestly, honeymoon don't mean that you ain't gonna be able to do that. Just put it to sleep and go finish the book. And he had to release that within a week or two. Just journal the process. They'd be filthy rich. Filthy rich. Filthy rich. That is to say that sometimes you got to stop thinking that, okay, this book here has got to be a bestseller. When I release, the reason I don't want to release it right now, thank you, Sister Kim, God bless you. The reason I don't want to release it right now because I need it to be a bestseller. Stop thinking like that because you're hindering yourself. Stop thinking like that. It may not be a bestseller. It may never be a bestseller. Then again, it may not be a bestseller for the next 10 years. But 10 years from now, something may happen that causes that book to become a bestseller. So don't allow the enemy to make you feel like it's not good enough or what have you, or you don't have enough media attention surrounding it, or you don't have the money to promote it the way that you want to. All right. Number 3, this is creative warfare. Thank you, Sister Whitney. God bless you. Negative interactions. Negative interactions offense. And I'm not going to spend too much time here because I think this one is kind of just self-explanatory. So this is something that I've experienced whenever I'm creating something. A lot of times, that's during the time where first and foremost, you are a creative person. When you are creating, you are in a heightened sense of sensitivity because you're prophetic. You're tapping into heaven. You're tapping into the mind of God. This is what you're doing. You're in a heightened sense of creativity. When you're in that heightened sense of creativity, you actually do need a safe space. You need it. You got to be mindful who has access to you. Please hear me on this. Hear me on this. You are in a heightened sense of creativity. You got to be mindful of who you have around you. Because I can tell you for myself, when I'm in that real heightened state, if I get around negativity, it drains the crap out of me. It drains me beyond. It does. It drains me. It drains me. Why? Because I'm in a heightened sense of creativity, a heightened sense of sensitivity. I'm in a heightened sense. And for those of you who are mass producers, you probably live in that realm. You're in that realm a lot. So you got to be very mindful who you have around you. The enemy, whenever you get to that spot, he may have your mama call you and cuss you out. He may have your mama, and you got to learn his patterns. Oh, God, I love learning his patterns. When I learn his patterns, I learn how to guard myself in creating. When you're in that heightened sense, it's like people call you up and they be like, what was wrong with you today? What are you talking about? I saw you at work and you just rolled your eyes at me. Sis, I did not roll my eyes at you. 1, I didn't see you. 2, if you see me, please just stop me and say hello. Now, I'm just saying, because you be acting funny sometimes. That is a spirit, man. Y'all better learn how to hit disconnect. I'm sorry. When I'm in a heightened sense of creativity, I get emails from people on YouTube. People come. It just be negativity. I'll get negativity, what have you. But I know what that is. That's warfare. It's creative warfare. Whenever it's time for you to produce, you need a safe space. If you're writing a book, you need a safe space. When you're writing a book, you don't answer every phone call. You got to know, oh, that's Kiki. No, she probably want to complain about that dude. I'm not going to do this. And that's number 2, but I won't jump there. I'm not going to do this. You got to be mindful. Like, you got to be very guarding of the space around you. And that's one of the reasons why it's always good to have other creatives around you, because other creatives understand that. And they're typically usually out somewhere creating themselves. But if you got people around you who are not creating, they got too much time on their everlasting hands, they will bombard you with all types of crazy warfare. They'll bombard you. They'll call you up. and come around your house and be like, and sometimes it's not even them attacking you. Sometimes it's just negativity. They just come around and they be like, girl, I'm sorry for showing up at your house. I'm just not feeling it today. Man, that's an energy vampire. I'm just not feeling it. It's like the girl on my job, she rolled her eyes at me and the supervisor didn't say anything. Then I was in traffic and folks was cutting me off and I got stopped at every red light. I just needed to go somewhere. And just, no, that's warfare. It's okay for you to say, sis. No, it's okay for you to look out the window and not answer the door. Right out the door, sis. I'm working on something right now and I wish you have a better day. But I can't give, because you're having to choose between giving her your energy and giving your energy to whatever it is that you're working on. That's what that spirit came to do, was to take that energy that you were putting into that book or that project, and now you got to give it to her. And she ain't gonna do nothing with it. That's the very definition of throwing your pearls to swine. She ain't gonna do nothing with it. All she gonna do is do this right here. All right, girl. Thank you. It's 3 a.m. and you still ain't gone home. That be that friend that you be just sitting there like, will she just get up and leave, for God's sake? You got to kick her out. All right, sis. Well, girl, thank you. I feel so much better. I'm glad you do, because I feel like crap right now. I'm glad you feel better, because what we just did was made an exchange. Yeah, and one thing about it is, when people try to ruin your name, as long as you know you're doing right, you leave that fight up to God. Don't try to defend your name. Don't try to defend your character. If you get into the fight and you try to fight, then God isn't obligated to fight on your behalf, because you're going to take the glory. But if you get out of it and you just say, hey, listen, and you pray, God gets the glory. He will defend your name, because attacking your name is attacking his name, as long as you're in his will. All right. So negative interactions. Be mindful of negativity when you're in creative mode. Be mindful of negative people when you're in a creative mode. If I'm in a negative, if I'm not feeling so excited or what have you, I'm very careful that I don't contact people. Like, honestly, I just got this thing where I don't want to bring that to people. I don't want to drain them. I don't want to drain them. So I'm very mindful of what I do. If you see me fall off the spectrum, I may be dealing with something. So just know to pray for me. All right. So that was number 3. I thought that was number 4. That was number 3. Number 2, negative phone conversations or visits when you're in the height of your creativity. And that was similar to number 3, which was negative interactions, but negative phone conversations. People pop up and all of a sudden, or you get a phone call. What you doing? You're in the height of your creativity. You are super sensitive in that moment. You need to be covered in that moment. You need to be hidden in that moment. But all of a sudden you get a call and it's your bestie. And she like, girl, I was just calling you because, yeah. And she started talking about one thing, and then the next thing you know, she tries to become argumentative towards you. Understand that you got to understand that the enemy is creative. You are creative, but he's also creative. He's a creative in the verb sense of the word. He's creative, meaning he's strategic. He knows how to distract you. He knows how to pull your energy out of you. He sees you and you got all this energy and all this creativity bubbling up on the inside of you, and he knows you're about to produce something major that's going to do damage to his kingdom and open up a stream of revenue for you. Oh, good God, he's going to try to take all of your energy. And that's the reason why it's okay, hear me when I tell you this, to tell your friends, whenever I go into creative mode, there will be times when I'm working on projects where I won't be able to talk to you as much. It's no offense to you, sis. I love you, but I really need to spend that time working on some stuff. And if she texts you and say, hey girl, pray for me. Can you talk? I'm going through some stuff right now. Don't feel obligated to talk to her. Just jump back in. Honestly, just jump back in. Don't feel obligated to talk to her. What you do? Me, I like to make sure I have different people around me. You guys know those Esther Prep, they know Pastor Shan. So I'd be like, hey, I know Pastor Shan, you can go book her for counseling. You should go book her for a counseling session. What I'm doing, I'm telling them to go somewhere else. Because right then and there, what I'm saying is I'm working on something and I'm having to choose between giving my energy to you versus this project. And especially if I know you ain't gonna do nothing with it, I'm probably not gonna tell you to go to nobody because I don't want you. I'm just gonna sit there and tell you, hey sis, listen, look, just pray about it, but I'm busy right now and I'll talk to you later. Whenever I go to bed or something like that, I may go ahead and when I lay down, I'll probably talk to you because I'm getting ready to go to bed anyhow. So you become a sleeping pill. You can drain me right then and there. If I'm getting ready to take a nap, typically when I'm getting ready to take a nap, I'll take anybody's phone call. You can drain me. You can drain me. This is the reason why I don't do coaching calls after I've come out from my nap. After I come off my nap, I do my coaching calls in a day. My coaching call window is between 12 and 3. That's my coaching call window. If you can't fit into that coaching call window, I'm not doing your call. I ain't doing it because I'm not going to do a coaching call at 6, 7, 8, 9 because I've had my nap at that time. And then I got to let you drain me of that. No, I'm not trying to do that because I have my highest level of energy. I'm ready to get to work and I'm not about to get drained. No, but right before I take my first nap, when I take my nap of the day, no. So negative phone conversations. You got to understand when you're in a heightened sense of creativity, the enemy is going to be creative in making sure that he takes that energy from you. He's going to make sure he takes that energy from you. He's going to make sure that you're not producing as much or what have you. So I always tell people this: the enemy will attack your friends to get to you. The enemy will attack your friends to get to you. If he can't get to you, if he can't attack you the way he wants to, he will attack your friends. Y'all got to understand how warfare works. Warfare is literally strategy for war. It's strategy, meaning it involves thinking. Is what considered spiritual abuse is. What do you mean? It's strategy. When if the enemy wants to get to me and I'm writing a book and he can't get to me because I didn't plead the blood or I'm fasting and he can't get to me, he could easily attack a friend of mine. Yes, you may be a prophet or prophetic person. Maybe a prophet or prophetic person. But he can easily attack a friend of mine to get to me. Why? Because what's she going to do? When she go through it, the first thought she got in her head is Tiffany. I'm tired. And now she going through this, and now she wants to talk for 2 hours. Then she want to come over to my house, and then the next day she want me to be around because she invites me into that situation. And she just feel, and in her mind, the definition of a friend is I'm supposed to be there for her. What if you've been best friends for years and your friend tells you y'all friendship not going to be the same, not going to be the same under what conditions? Under what conditions? Somebody walked up to me right after church and said, "Don't act like that." I had my Bible in my hand. My hands was full. I seen the spirit of jealousy all over him. Yep, and that is a dangerous spirit. That is a dangerous spirit. So just right back to it, guys. Negative phone conversations. Negative phone conversations. One of the rules I have whenever I'm creating, which I'm almost always creating, which is why my phone stays on silent. There are certain people I just do not talk to. There are certain people they gonna get a call back because I'm not gonna give them my energy. I already know if the enemy coming after, the enemy will attack them to get to you. He will attack them to get to you. He will attack them to get to you because he know the door open in their life and he know that you feel obligated to him. He will attack them to get to you. All right, last one, which is number 1. I'm going to read this one. I posted this up as a status the other day. I'm going to read this one to y'all. The status I posted up on my Facebook the other day. In a second. All right. Here's a form of warfare you probably didn't know about. God gives you a great idea. Maybe it's for a book, a business, an invention, or something else. You're excited about the idea, so you start trying to flesh it out. Pay attention, y'all. But all of a sudden, another good idea floods your mind. Excited, you start trying to flesh it out as well. And that's when another good idea pops up. Now you're all over the place writing multiple books or creating multiple things at one time. Listen closely. There's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. Sometimes the enemy will distract you with good ideas so you don't finish your God ideas. Consequently, you'll find yourself all over the place with a bunch of work of projects in the works. I know I'm talking to somebody. Know when to sow. Consequently, you'll find yourself all over the place with a bunch of projects in the works, none of which ever come to completion. Can God give you several ideas at once? Absolutely. But he won't overwhelm you if he knows that giving you another idea will cause you to cancel out or lose interest in the first idea. Here's a tip. Finish the God idea. Put all of your effort and energy into that idea. Use a Word document or the voice memo feature on your phone to record any other ideas that come up, making a mental note to flesh them out later on. If they're from God, they'll still be fresh once you finish the first project. If they're forms of creative warfare, they will have lost their appeal by the time you're done. You're welcome. That's the status I posted up the other day. I've dealt with this warfare a lot as a creative. And I didn't realize it was warfare until God told me it was warfare. Because I would sit there and God will give me an idea. Thank you, Sister Nisa. God bless you. Lisa, God bless you. God will give me an idea. And all of a sudden, I get another good idea in. So I'll be starting on this book. And then next thing you know, oh, I want to create this. Oh, then I run over here and start working on that. Didn't finish the book. Then I get another idea. Then I start that. Now I got all these projects in the works. And you know what ends up happening? You get drained. You get drained. Like for real, you get drained. You start feeling like, See, the thing about it is, what motivates us to finish is seeing progress. So when I'm writing a book, what motivates me is seeing that I'm on page 30. What motivates me more is when I get to page 50 or page 60. That motivates me because I see movement. But if I don't see movement, I lose my zeal. That's how you're wired. I lose my zeal. So if I'm writing a book and then I'm working on this project, the book is not moving. The book is not moving. Now I'm over here working on this. Then I don't finish that because now I got another idea and I'm working over here. I got all of these things in the works and I'm not seeing much of it. I'm just seeing little squints of movement. Then all of a sudden, you just kind of lose interest. It becomes overwhelming. Then you just stop. Then you just stop. Why did you stop? You're overwhelmed. You burned yourself out. You burned yourself out. What I've had to learn to do when that happens to me, because it happens a lot. When that happens to me, what I've had to learn to do, there's a voice feature on the phone. Let's see if I can find it. Voice for the iPhone user. All right. For the iPhone user, it looks like that. Thank you, Sister Lorena. God bless you. God bless you. I'll show this once that pulls off. Thank you, Sister Whitney. God bless you. God bless you. All right, I'm going to show y'all. Give me a second. All right. It looks like that. Trying to get it to. There you go. Voice. Now, when I have an idea, this is what I do. Let's say I have an idea about a book on anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a pressure that comes because we're anxious. What causes anxiousness? Impatience. What causes impatience? Typically, impatience can be centered around many factors. It can be centered around rejection, this, that, and the other. This is what I'm doing with my good ideas. Then I'm going to stop it. And here we go. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a pressure that comes because we're anxious. What causes anxiety? I can come back to that later. I don't want to lose the idea in case it's a God idea, but I don't know if it's just a good idea, because a good idea could be warfare. A good idea could be warfare. So what I'm doing is I'm going to record it, and then I'm just going to leave it's on my phone for later. And if I don't have, let's say I'm in a space where I can't record it, if I'm in a space where I can't record it, y'all see that? The notes feature on your phone. Now you can see my notes from me taking notes at church. But you see, I got a card game. You see what I do? That's a good idea. Oh, no, I don't want to put that idea out there. But that's a good idea. I'll put the notes in here. I'm going to write them out. I'm just going to build them out. I'll come back to that later on. If it's a good idea, I'm probably going to lose interest in it. If it's a God idea, I'm going to flesh it out. Or hear me when I say this. It's okay to publish a good idea. Surprise, Satan, you threw it at me. It was a good idea. I'm still going to publish it. Long as it's not, I'm going to still publish it, but I'm going to finish my God idea first. Think of it this way. You go to the bait and tackle store. You buy worms. You're actually spending money on those things, right? You're spending money on it. So you're giving away good money to get those worms because you want something greater. You want something, there's a bigger picture. That's how Satan sees you. He will give you a good idea because to him it's small, because there's something bigger that he's trying to take from you. There's something bigger he's trying to take from you. He sees God giving you this idea for this business. He sees that thing's going to go viral. That thing's going to do great. So he'll distract you with a good idea. Now you over here like, girl, I got the book. And then all of a sudden I got this idea. I'm gonna do a card game with the book. Just so y'all know, I'm be offering that with my company too from this point on. That's something I'm working on. So my customers will be able to get publishing and they can get card games. They can have their own custom card game to go with their book. You heard it here first. So when somebody tries to steal that idea, y'all know where it came from, because I'm the only person on the market doing it. But anyhow, I'm going to flesh that idea out. I'm going to put the notes over here. And I'll get back to it. I'm going to get back to writing the book. I'm going to get back to working on work. But the person sit there, they be like, girl, I got the idea for a card game with the book. Now I'm working on a card game. Then it's a song. It's a song I got to have with the book. All right. And then I'm going to have a website. You got too much going on in your head. That's warfare. You got too much going on in your head and you will get overwhelmed. And I'm going to tell you that has happened to me many times, that the enemy has successfully gotten me with that many times. You know what ends up happening? I always end up feeling worn out when I haven't even done anything. I always end up feeling like, because I become mentally exhausted. You got to understand, it is possible to become mentally exhausted. And that has happened to me many times. That has happened to me many, many times. Thank you, Sister Kylie. God bless you. It's happened to me many times where I've gotten mentally exhausted to the point where I had too much in my head going on. I couldn't do none of those. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what. And I just went to bed and I ate me some ice cream. That was warfare. What being a successful creative looks like is staying focused. Even though you have all these moving parts around you, all these different things that are moving around you, all these good ideas, stay focused on what God told you to do. He told you to write the book. While you working on it, look, I didn't even know I was recording. I didn't know I was still recording. I accidentally hit recording again. Okay, I'm done. But recording. And that's what it is. The goal is to mentally exhaust you because it works. It works. It's to mentally exhaust you to the point where you sitting there, you like, I had this book, I got a movie idea, I got a song idea, a game idea, I got this, I got this. Ugh! Then you get burned out. I did that last week. Last week I had so much going on in my head. I had so much going on in my head that I had to take a couple of days just to kind of relax so I can get my thoughts back. Because I had so many good ideas and so many things going on. And I had to say, oh, okay, wait a minute. It has worked on every creative. It is a very effective tactic. It is so effective that we rarely ever realize that it's warfare. It is so effective that we rarely, even me knowing that it's warfare, sometimes I still fall for it. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, because it's a good idea. Oh, man. But I've gotten a lot more privy to it, and I've gotten a lot better at it. I've gotten a lot better at not giving into that temptation. I've gotten a whole lot better at it. So like I said, I use the notes feature or the voice memo feature on my phone, and I flesh it out there. I'm working on a big project, right? And he will tell you to do that because people will drain you and they'll discourage you and stuff like that. These are forms of creative warfare. Again, this one, the last one is ideas that interrupt other ideas. Ideas. This was number one. Ideas that interrupt other ideas. Finish the first one. Finish the one that God gave you. If it's a book, finish it. Record everything else. Write it down. Write the vision, make it plain. Write it down. Write down what you know about it. You can flesh it out a little bit. Okay, book on anxiety. I'm going to have a chapter on being anxious. I'm going to have a chapter on this. I'm going to have a chapter on that. You have 5 minutes to fleshing it out and then go right back to writing the book. All right, we get angry because we're confused. Then go right back into writing the book. Yeah, I'm up. I'm manless. So no, actually, it's not even that. It's just me being funny. But all that honesty, I've always been like that. It's funny because I thought about my mother one day and how she used to I would get in trouble because I would be up in the middle of the night. And this is just the way I'm wired. But the enemy will distract you. The enemy will interrupt your ideas with other ideas. But stay focused. Focus on finishing the other one. Because this is what faith looks like, is me focusing. And all this stuff going on around. It's kind of like, women, just take it to the romantic side. You want a man that's focused on you. All them beautiful women, I'm talking about they twerking, they doing everything. They over there twisting their wigs, they doing everything. But he got that lion focus. Women, we find that very attractive. The man got a lion's focus. Like he just walking towards you. He don't seem to see nothing else going on around him. That's attractive, right? God finds it attractive too. He finds it attractive whenever he gives you something to do and you stay focused on that thing. You're focused on him. You're not letting your eyes be diverted by all the things that are going on the left or the right. You keep yourself focused. You can write down ideas. You can record the ideas, but keep yourself focused and finish that idea. When is the next time I'm doing? I was going to do one tonight. So it's going to probably be in the next day or two. In the next, I won't say day or two, but it'll be something. It'll be something. But that's that. That was my take on creative warfare. I pray that y'all were blessed by tonight's teaching. I know this was a little bit out the box, but I pray that you guys were blessed by this. Yes, I'm burnt out with researching about spiritual warfare, and I forgot to drop it before I fell asleep. Yeah. You got to study, but always know when to take a break. I take a break every day for 2 hours to take a nap. That way I can kind of just re-up because I need that nap. I need it. Which is the reason why I don't let people book me. They be like, you can't just, I'm like, I'm not giving up my nap. The nap is so important to me. I'd be like, folks be like, because they're trying to book me. And I'm like, it's almost like when you lose your nap for $200, no, I will not. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. I'm not losing my nap because I need my nap. All right. I love y'all, and we'll talk again soon. Again, if this bless you, sow a seed. I will be back soon to talk to y'all some more. And I did send the books out today. So for those of you who ordered them, they will be coming in the next couple of days. All right. Love